horrified. And he said, our country deserves to provide retirement security for people. And he proposed a plan that would provide $200 a month for retirees over the age of 60, and they had to spend it before they got the next check. And that was a stipend from the government. In 1929, 1930, that's a lot of money. And what happened was he organized these clubs around the country, and within 6 months, there were 14,000 clubs. Pre-internet, pre-moveon.org, pre-petition online. We all sign our online petitions for whatever. This was like, and I saw pictures. They looked like, you know, little suburban clubs of people coming together talking about Social Security. And they got 5 million signatures on a petition without the internet, without even, you know, email. They probably talked to each other. What a revolutionary thought. Anyway, and that's really like, you know, kind of put the political pressure and created the first voting bloc of elders. And I bring this up because I think this is just the perfect example of things we need to be doing in this country. There isn't one answer, there's multiple answers, because we have been complacent too long, and that is really the piece. And then the other part I want to bring to is how people are making change today, because I think there's some very profound things happening in our communities that you may not be involved in, but I think it's really important to pay attention to. So 2 years ago or 3 years ago, there was something called Occupy in our country. And that, the point of Occupy was, you know, we all joke, you know, we're going to occupy the class, we're going to do this. But the point of it was trying to bring attention to the economic inequity that exists in our society. And I'm not here to rabble-rouse, you know, about a lot of things, but I am here to rabble-rouse about this issue, because our country has the greatest economic disparity of any industrialized country in the world, and that is dangerous for our country. Because when you get to that point, it's when you start to, you know, the society starts to break. And we have lots of people talking about that in this country right now, but what are the responses? So in our state, we have a few things that are really exciting that are happening. We have a huge movement going on to put minimum wage increases on the ballot. And the reason that's happening is it's happening in probably 30 states in the country because our federal government cannot act. So we're taking action into the states, we're taking actions into the cities, and I think that's actually exciting because we're building grassroots. There's a movement to provide paid sick time for workers. Kind of revolutionary that there's no guaranteed sick time for workers. Healthcare workers, home care workers, child care workers. There's no guaranteed sick time for them. So all we do is perpetuate whatever germs and just pass them along. So there's that movement. There's the movement of fast food workers who, you know, like I was talking to somebody in one of the breaks. Most people who work in fast food, people think they're teenagers. They're people in their 20s and 30s who are cobbling together 1, 2, 3 jobs to pay the bills. And so there's a movement, and we're not talking about these little mom and pop shop Burger Kings. We're talking about multinational corporations that I can't even stand their food because their food is so distorting our food chain. But more importantly, they're taking money out of our communities and not providing living wages. So there's lots of movement around low-wage workers, domestic workers coming forward, organizing for a Bill of Rights in Massachusetts. Very exciting. Women who, you know, basically indentured servitude. That this is, you know, they're starting to organize. So every place you go across this country, you will see this movement percolating of low-wage workers. I think this is the next women's movement in our country. This is the movement of women workers, as well as men, but stepping forward saying we need to make change, we need to have a wage, we need to be able to organize as women to be able to preserve our families and keep meals on the table. So I don't have like a one particular thing you should do. I'm just trying to like make you think about what's going on in your communities. And I think the third thing is, in every community we have huge fights going on about housing. Who lives in our community? I live in Jamaica Plain. Yay! And I think our community is a perfect example. It's a great neighborhood in our city, but it's totally becoming unaffordable for the majority of people who want to live there, you know, who want to raise their families, because we have so much gentrification and so much desire to go back into the city. It's good that people want to live in the city, and they don't want to live in the suburbs, and they want to raise their kids in urban environments, and they're going to fight for good schools. But at the same time, it's problematic when we force people out of their community. So all I'm trying to say is, like, when we talk about Baboom and we talk about the next generation, I don't think it's just about, like, the reinvention of ourselves. I think it's about us taking a responsibility, looking around our communities, looking at where people are trying to move together, being engaged electorally in terms of things that make a difference. So I don't have an answer for people. My goal was to, Mother Jones was a very famous union organizer, and she'd go into communities and she'd help people organize. And one of her favorite quotes was, "My job is to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted." In other words, if you're comfortable, you can't just be comfortable. You got to have a social responsibility here. And if you're uncomfortable, hopefully some of you will, be comforted by the fact that we're talking about some of these issues. So I don't have a big conclusion, but I did have a thought here that I wanted to just raise, because when I talked to Peggy, I'm going back to what's the goal here and how do we each go through in our lives. So I'm going through my own thinking about my next step in life, but I do feel like whatever my next step is, that I will still have one foot in the fight for social justice, one foot maybe in other, like, more interesting personal things, but that I'm somebody who, joined the fight for social justice. I want to live in my community, and I want to make sure my community is a fair and just place, and I hope everybody also shares that thought. But my thought I was going to leave you with is, what is Baboom? Like, I kind of was trying to think about that. And, like, I'm one who kind of, like, likes to kind of think about silly rhymes, so I wrote a rhyme for our occasion to try to, like, think about what this might be, or what I would try to put as a definition. So I'm not a poet, so I didn't go to the poetry workshop, and you can tell. Baboom, baboom. Is it a new perfume that we will consume? Is it a back room or a special chat room, where we will all presume women join to assume a place with lots of leg room? A new type of conference room where we can organize and Zoom to fight against gloom and doom, giving birth through the womb to a large baboom, baboom, baboom.